There were some questions about the comparison of Wittgenstein I and II. Wittgenstein I had a lot of influence on the logical positivist and Wittgenstein II on the constructivist and relativist, so I discussed Wittgenstein in those contexts. But of course, you can compare them. Basically, he was a philosopher of language who had a lot of influence on philosophy of science, so he was thinking about the meaningfulness of sentences. And he was interested in, for instance, religious claims. So he wasn't really interested in science. It was not the realm of philosophers, he thought. So he was looking for sentences that were meaningful, that express something of religion or of metaphysics or of aesthetics, the spiritual, so that which he called the higher. So those realms, he wanted to say something sensible about that, something meaningful about that. And Wittgenstein I in the end said, meaning depends on reference. So meaning depends on facts, where the words refer to. And if you can establish that a sentence is true, so it describes the facts, it corresponds to the facts. If you can establish that with your own senses, then you would say that's a meaningful sentence. So if I say there's a book on the table, or Teddy has a balloon, then you can check that with your senses. You need to know that this is Teddy, she has a balloon, so the sentence Teddy has a balloon is true. I can check that with my senses. The book is white, this sentence, I can check that with my senses. I can see that it's white. The book is on the table, that sentence is also true. I can check those sentences with my senses, and therefore they're not only in this case true, but they're also meaningful. I can also say Daddy has an apple, the book is black, and the book is not on the table. Well, those sentences describe reality, but not in the way it is, so they are false. And I can check that. I can see that Teddy does not have an apple, she has a balloon. I can see that the book is white, and that the book actually is on the table. So those sentences, Teddy has an apple, the book is black, the book is not on the table, they are false, but they're still meaningful, because I would know what I have to see when these sentences are true. So the meaning depends on the reference to the facts, according to Wittgenstein I. And of course, you must be able to check that with your own senses to establish whether they are true or false. But whether they're true or false doesn't really matter for the sentences to be meaningful. So the sentence, the book is black and the book is white, those are both meaningful. The sentence, the book is black, is false, because it doesn't correspond to the facts, and the book is white is true because it corresponds to the facts. Now, what about claims like God is good? Wittgenstein was interested in claims like that. Is that a meaningful claim? Wittgenstein I would say no, it's not. Because, well, what do I need to see whether that sentence is true or false? I don't know, Wittgenstein I says. I don't know what I should see. So that means that if you can't establish what you need to see in order to establish whether the sentence is true or false, then this sentence doesn't seem to refer to facts at all. And therefore it's meaningless if meaning is dependent on its reference. And of course on us being able to determine whether, if we can observe that reference, those facts it's supposed to refer to. So Wittgenstein I has sentences that are meaningful, those that refer to the facts. And whether they are true, those sentences, or false is not really relevant in order for those sentences to be meaningful. And there are sentences that are meaningless. So he doesn't say a claim like God is good is true, and he doesn't say that it's false. He says, I can't establish whether it's true or false, and therefore it's meaningless, because I don't know what the reference is. I can't observe that. Okay, now let's look at Wittgenstein II, because clearly people make the claim that God is good in a certain context, and that means that even though you might agree that you don't know what you need to see in order to establish that God is good, this sentence does have meaning. And that's what Wittgenstein II says. Wittgenstein II says, well, yeah, it does have meaning in certain contexts, not in all contexts, but in certain contexts it does have meaning. In a religious context. And he calls this context a language game or life form. And of course, still the sentences, Teddy has a balloon, or Teddy has an apple, or the book is white, and the sentence, the book is black, and the book is on the table, or the book is not on the table, those all are meaningful sentences as well, because in certain contexts, the context of explaining Wittgenstein I, for instance, those sentences have meaning. Okay, so now, in effect, this means that Wittgenstein II should say of any sentence that you can always come up with a context, with a language game, with a life form, in which that sentence has meaning. So if I ask on an exam, what would Wittgenstein I say about the following sentence? And what would Wittgenstein II say about the following sentence? Is it meaningful or meaningless? Wittgenstein II would always say it's meaningful. It's only Wittgenstein I that says that some sentences are meaningless. And those are the sentences you can't establish whether they refer to anything. So Wittgenstein I says meaning depends on reference, and therefore you need to be able to observe what a reference is. You need to observe the facts. Teddy with a balloon, the book on the table. And Wittgenstein II says any sentence is meaningful because it depends not on reference but on use in a certain context, in a certain language game. So take that in mind, keep that in mind if you get a question about comparing one or two sentences and what Wittgenstein I and Wittgenstein II would say about that.